However, after less than a year apart, in July 1879, Fanny sent him a fateful cablegram. That cablegram no longer exists, so we're free to speculate what was in it. She may have said she needed money, which I think she had done in the past. She may have said she was ill, some people think that. She may have said she was ready for him to come. Either way, whatever it said, he decided to jump on the first available ship. So he was ahead of the mail. He didn't even let her know he was coming. And that ship was called the Devonia. It was an emigrant ship headed for New York in wretchedly crowded conditions.
That's him there. No, it's not.
Hideous conditions on board, which were awful for everybody apart from the writer, of course, who managed to get two stories out of this, one called Across the Plains and the other called The Amateur Emigrant, which are really great reading today. And here he is describing his arrival in the New World in Across the Plains.
Emigrant ships had arrived at New York all weekend, and a great part of the passengers from these 5 ships was concentrated on the 5 o'clock ferry. A babel of bewildered men, women and children, crowded thick, heavy and rank with the atmosphere of dripping clothes and lowering spirits. Open carts full of bedding stood by the half hour in the rain. When at last word was passed to us, I picked up my bundles and I got underway, but then only to exchange discomfort for misery and danger. The landing at Jersey City was done in a stampede. A panic of selfishness presided over the disorder of the landing. People pushed, elbowed and ran. Their families followed as best they could. Children fell and were picked up to be rewarded by a blow. One child, who had lost her parents, screamed steadily, and I'm ashamed to say that I ran past her with the rest. At last we were admitted to the railway cars, dejected, soaked to the skin and deeper. As they were, most people composed themselves somehow in their wet and frozen clothing to sleep. But I had twice seen the lights of Philadelphia, and twice I had been told to leave the train, and then twice been told to rejoin it, before I could follow their dejected example. When I awoke, it was already day. There was not a cloud. The sunshine was baking, and in the woody river valleys through which the train wound its way, the atmosphere preserved a sparkling freshness. I felt my spirits rise, like some poor man who has come into a fortune. When I asked the name of the river from the brakesman, and when I heard that it was called the Susquehanna, the beauty of that name seemed to match the beauty of that shining river and that flourishing valley.
He was enchanted by many names that he came across in the New World, and the Susquehanna was one which inspired a poem. It's called The Susquehanna and the Delaware. So he's seen 2 magnificent rivers. And the poem, which Neil has set to music, expresses both his excitement of being in the New World and his trepidation. How will Fanny receive him on the West Coast?
Where or how I do not know, and why I do not care. These travelling eyes and minds, they fly through open air, past floods and fields and hills, through the woods and the meadows fair, here beside the Susquehanna and along the Delaware. That I will dream no more these dreams of otherwhere, for I know that I have changed from what I was and where, and lately I have drunk too much the perfume of the air, here beside the Susquehanna and along the Delaware. You will bring me soon ashore without care, down the stream and through the woods to the land of brighter air, where I will wear a bolder front than the one that I now wear, here beside the Susquehanna and along the Delaware, here beside the Susquehanna and along the Delaware.
Thank you so much. By the time he arrived on the West Coast, Fanny had relocated from San Francisco down to Monterey, where things were, I would say, more affordable. and had set up in another artist's colony with her daughter Belle, who by now had formed quite a strong attachment to another artist, Joe Strong, and also of course her son Lloyd, who by now was 11 years old. And when Louis arrived, we understand there was general rejoicing. He made everything better. And nobody was more happy to see him, I think, than Fanny's son Lloyd, who just adored everything, all the games, all the ideas, all the stories that his future stepfather could come up with. The family rejoiced to be together again, and Fanny decided to set the divorce in motion. Apparently it only took 4 months to come through, from the moment he arrived until the moment that it happened, but to him, to Louis, it seemed an absolute age. He'd been waiting already nearly 2 years, of course. And while he was cooling his heels, he moved himself up to San Francisco, where he began to meet people and get to know a new and diverse society. He began to work, to write, to submit stories to local papers. His future sister-in-law, Nellie Vandergrift, said of Louis at this time, he was a citizen of the world in his capacity to understand the point of view of other men of whatsoever race, creed or colour. And it was this catholicity of spirit, she said, that made it possible for him to sit upon the benches of Portsmouth Square in San Francisco and learn something of real life from the human flotsam and jetsam cast up there by fate. Well, during their separation, during the time that he was waiting for the divorce to come through, there was apparently a very serious squabble between them, and this was not an unusual occurrence. Fanny was a very feisty person who knew what she wanted and had a strong will, and she sent him off. She said, go away, go walking. I'm sick of you, we understand. And he went walking in the Santa Lucia Range, where he was completely unprepared for weather. He didn't even take a coat, let alone the sleeping sack. And he lay down apparently under a tree for a little rest. A storm came, rather like we had yesterday. He got drenched, and his being weak-chested as he was, he became very, very ill. He was discovered semi-comatose, lying under a tree, by the children of some local goat farmers who rescued him, took him back to their family farm, brought him back to a semblance of health, and in gratitude to these people, for their kindness, he wrote them this gorgeous poem, my favourite in the whole show. It's called Gates of Gold.
So it's out across the roaring foam, and it's onward to the west. Through many's the lonely mile from home, and many's the mountain crest. From where the dogs of Scotland call their sheep back to the fold, to where these flags are flying here, beside the gates of gold. Where the deep sea galleons ride to come to bring the coal. Here flows the fog at eventide, here blows the breeze at morn, and it's here that I was sick and sad, alone and poor and cold, in this distressful city, beside the gates of gold. So I've been east and I've been west, and my back's been to the wall, and ever above me shone two signs to help me through it all. And they were the love of God and the help of man, and they both will make me bold to face the gates of darkness, beside the gates of gold.